Hello and welcome to Positively United today, Thursday, the 15th of January, 2026. And the big story of today, as far as Manchester United is concerned, I think must be this meeting of United's senior executive committee that's been going on in Carrington. The big news there, of course, is that the Glazers, Joel or Avram or both, although how you can actually tell the difference between the two, I've never really been able to work out, that they were in attendance. They flew in from America. Wow. Lovely of them to do so. These meetings are usually held, I think, in Monaco, Sir Jim's residence. But it would appear, it's been reported anyway, that they moved the meeting to Carrington today because they wanted to come and meet with Michael Carrick directly, and it was felt wrong to move him away from Carrington only, 2 days before the Manchester derby, and when he's a new head coach. Well, quite rightly so. He needs as fewer disturbances and distractions as possible. It was very nice of the big wigs to put themselves out like that and come to Carrington. But what a meeting that must have been. And it's interesting that there's been, as far as I can tell at the moment, there's been no reports coming out of Carrington about what was discussed. There's just supposition and people filling the news gap with their own imaginings. And what really chuffed me today when listening to some of the YouTube channels about this was I heard somebody propose the idea that what needed to be happening in that meeting today was that the Glazers needed to be laying the law down with Ineos and letting Ineos know how disappointing their performance is. And that they really want more from Ineos, and it's up to Ineos to start putting things right. Do you know, if I was Sir Jim and the Glazers were at the other side of a table and they started telling me that I was getting it wrong, I'm not a patient man, to be honest with you, and I know that people who do well in business tend to be very, very patient people, and they find it easy to hide their emotions, and they don't get terribly angry. I think it'd just blow my stack if I'd have heard somebody from the Glazers telling me that I ought to be doing better in my role at Manchester United. This is an ownership that has driven the finances of this great club into the ground, and irrespective of how much money they've spent over the last several years on the club, that I don't actually believe they've spent any money at all, but the club has spent money on players, that's undeniable. But we all know it would have been more, or could have been more, had the Glazers not been bleeding the business dry, but that's what they've been doing. So for those who suggested today that the role of today's meeting should be the Glazers telling Ineos to do better, I think you're really wide of the mark. And however much you may hate Ineos at the moment, and I appreciate there's a lot of hate out there for Ineos at the moment, I think a lot of it misplaced. But they do have questions to answer, and I'll actually be making a video about that later this week. But if you hate Ineos so much that you side with the Glazers, I think you've lost perspective. Big time. And I think you need to be thinking about where the real problem with this club is. It's in Glazer ownership. It's not in a group of people working at Ineos who I genuinely feel have got the best interests of the club at heart. The Glazers have never had the best interests of this club at heart. They've only ever had the best interests of their bank account at heart. So somewhat bizarre thing to say, I think. So I said, it doesn't seem that there's any news coming out of this meeting about what was discussed and if anything was agreed. The other thing I picked up on today was the Athletics Talk of the Devils podcast launched their latest episode today. And I thought it was an extraordinary episode in many ways, because quite a chunk at the beginning was devoted to two highly respected journalists, Laurie Whitwell and Andy Mitten, seemingly feeling the need to defend their journalistic integrity. Because over the last few days, that journalistic integrity has come under some severe criticism And I think without naming names or naming the names of particular YouTube channels, we all know where that criticism has originated, and some outrageous things have been said on some YouTube channels, particularly about Laurie Whitwell. That Laurie Whitwell is in some way having stories fed to him by Manchester United, and he's a Manchester United sort of PR hack. This is outrageous stuff. It really is. And it shows how low the conversation about Manchester United has become in some elements of social media. Laurie Whitwell is a very fine journalist, and the Athletic, which is actually owned by the New York Times, does not employ bad journalists. It actually employs, I think, the best journalists out there. And I actually felt really sorry for Laurie Whitwell, having to explain the journalistic process and the journalistic method that he uses. I thought it was I understand why they did it, and I understand why they felt they had to do it. But I felt sorry for them, feeling that they had to do it, because the criticism is outrageous. But if the criticism of Laurie Whitwell is bad, the criticism of Andy Mitten is positively insane. Andy Mitten is a lifelong Man United fan. Laurie Whitwell is too, actually. But Andy Mitten is a visible lifelong Man United fan. I mean, he is the editor of the most popular Man United fanzine. He has been involved in writing about the club for 30 years, longer. He's the author of several books about subjects to do with Manchester United. He is a trusted Manchester United journalist. And the fact that Andy Mitten has to defend himself against some of the trash which is out there on social media, whipping up false rumours about journalists like Laurie Whitwell and Andy Mitten in order to drive up hate-fueled clicks and likes and subscriptions, is terrible. And it really ought to... Well, it's not going to stop because the people behind it are making too much money doing it. But what we should be doing as proper fans is rejecting it. Absolutely rejecting it out of hand. Calling it out when we see it and rejecting it. So again, as I said, highly unusual, I thought, Talk of the Devil's podcast today. Having to listen to them defend their journalistic principles, just insane, mad. It shows you how poisonous some of the commentary about this club is. And in my launch video of a few days ago, this is exactly what I was referring to. This was exactly the reason why I said I was starting this channel up, because I believe that people who believe like me, I believe this is the majority, by the way. We know this is nonsense. We know that people like Andy Mitten represent some of the very best aspects of fandom in this club. And they shouldn't feel that they have to defend themselves on their own podcast against totally unfounded rumours and allegations and suggestions that are being made. Rotten stuff. Some news today about how Manchester United might be willing to spend money in the January transfer window. I just don't see it happening. I really don't. And I'm in two minds about it. I can't make my mind up about this. I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. Excuse me. Of course, it would be great if United bought a player in January, especially in the areas where we know we have deficiencies. So midfield would be the obvious place to buy. But some of the rumours today were that we were looking at buying, for example, a left full back or a left winger. Really? Are those that... Well, the left full back position, I don't believe should be a priority for us at all. Because I can think there's at least two players, sorry, excuse me, possibly three who can play in that role, who would do a perfectly good job. We've got, Luke Shaw, we've got Dorgu, and we've got Leacher. Because if we play with a back four, Leacher might be the person who finds himself without a role. If the centre backs are going to be, for example, De Ligt and Maguire, then why not play Leacher at left back? Left back would be, of all the positions on the pitch that we need to strengthen and have depth in, I don't think left back is a priority at all. Left wing, well, isn't it worth waiting to see how Carrick sets out his team against City before any decisions are being made about whether we need more width? Let's see how he deploys Cunha and Mbuemo and Ahmad before we think about, do we need more width? To me, let's let Carrick get on with it and make his own decisions on that. Midfield, obviously Conor Gallagher is now a done deal for Tottenham, so he's not available anymore. But there must be, I say there must be. Are there others out there who we might be thinking of buying? And does it have to be an outright purchase? Why don't we think about doing a loan to fill a very, very specific need that we have, which is strengthening our midfield between now and the end of the season to make it more likely that we can grab one of those European qualifying positions, either Champions League or Europa League. By the way, I do notice that when people say United need to qualify for Europe, they always just mention the Champions League. In the context of this season and where we thought we were going to be at the beginning of the season, let's put aside for now the sacking of Amorim. Where did you think we were going to finish this season? Did you think we were going to finish in the top 4? Did you think we were going to finish in the top 5? Why has the Champions League suddenly become the only roadmark of success for this season, qualifying for Champions League? It's right at the very edge of what we can achieve with this squad and these circumstances. I think it's possible. It's just about possible that we could finish in the top 4, because I genuinely think that only City and Arsenal are guaranteed in that top 4. I think Aston Villa could slip out of it. I think Liverpool could slip out of it. I think Chelsea are nowhere near guaranteed to be in it. I don't think Tottenham are even worth considering at the moment. And Newcastle's form is so up and down and their results so in and out, I don't think they're guaranteed either. There is a real opportunity to get in the top 4, but it's going to be really, really tough. But top 5, I think that's possible. So Europa League, I always call it Europa Cup. Europa League, that's a possibility. And if we could strengthen central midfield and make that a bigger reality, that would just pay for itself with the extra money of qualifying for European competition. So it is disappointing that we're not thinking about strengthening in midfield. But if the right player isn't out there for the right money, that's understandable too. And if Manchester United do have in the back of their minds the name of the person they really want to be the next manager, head coach of Manchester United, then again, unless they've got direct instructions from that person about who that person might want in the squad, I think it's really, really difficult to buy permanent in January. But what about a loan? Aren't there any loan candidates out there who might fit the bill? Again, I think it probably... Does this call into question United scouting? Does this call into question United's ability to spot potential transfers, even some left field, no pun intended, transfers that maybe no one's thought about, but which would be actually really, really useful? Anyway, let's see what happens. Just as a roundup, as I said, astonishing that people should think that Ineos have got should come under any criticism from the Glazers for the role that they're playing. Yes, they do have questions to answer, Ineos, and I'll produce a video on that about my own thoughts on that. But sorry, mate, no one's going to take any criticism from the Glazers. They haven't got the right to tell anybody what to do or query or criticize anybody's performance. What a nerve it would be for the Glazers to turn up at Carrington and have a go at Ineos, when Carrington has been completely redeveloped with Ineos money. Not a penny of Glazer money, Ineos money. I think we should all remember that. Yeah. Right. Well, that's all I want to talk about today. As always, if you like what I do, please like the video, subscribe, tell your friends who you think might enjoy this kind of content about the channel, and encourage them to subscribe too. Please, if you've got any comments, you've got any questions, or you've got any suggestions, put them in the comment section below this video. Also, do remember, if you want to contribute to the work that I'm doing, however small a contribution you could make, everything is gratefully received. I need to up the standard of presentation on these videos, the technical standard, and any little donation would help. I've got a Coffee account that would allow you to do that. The link will be in the description. But until the next video, remember to stay positively united, and see you next time.